Welcome to another episode of Behind the Now. Today I get to chat with talent manager Josh Silver. Josh has an amazing range of experience in show business as a performer, producer, and manager before founding his own management company, Silver J Management. Listen in to jump into the ins and outs of talent management and Josh's unique pathway in entertainment. Hi, Josh. Thank you so much for talking with me today. I'm so excited to talk with you. So thanks for doing this.
Thank you. And likewise, it's nice to meet you and to chat with you. It's always an honor for people to want to know what I think about something. So hopefully I will
of course.
be able to give you some good thoughts.
Okay, awesome. So Josh, you are a manager and you founded Silver J Management. So before founding Silver J Management and getting to that, walk me through your pathway. How did you get into management to begin with? What made you even want to go into entertainment? Yeah, tell me a little bit about that.
Well, that could take up the whole hour. So I'll because I'm old. I've been doing this a long time and I've had a lot of different things. But I'll give you my quick path. I grew up in New York City in the borough of Queens in Flushing, home of the New York Mets. I mean, my first job I wanted to do was to be a fireman when I was a wee lad. But by the time I was probably 8 or 9, I started to think I wanted to be an actor. Okay. And I joined at my local, I was raised Jewish, so I belonged to a local synagogue and I joined the performing club. And then a very pivotal thing happened when I went to high school. I applied to and was accepted into the High School of Performing Arts in New York City, the Fame School. And it was a long time ago. But it was a wonderful experience. I used to have to commute over an hour each way every day. I used to take a bus and a subway, but I never minded it. I loved doing it. And and interestingly enough, I ended up becoming good friends with another person who ended up becoming my client as a manager. Oh, wow. Almost 30 years later. Okay. And now it's over 30 years after that, and he's still my client.
Wow.
And I'll reveal his name a little bit later. So we'll keep people interested.
Cool. Sounds good.
So I met my first future client in high school, not knowing it at the time. And I loved high school. Then he and I both went to college for a year. State University of New York had purchased, which had just started a theater program. And we both got kicked out after a year. He went to the Juilliard School and I joined the circus, ironically enough, not by choice. Somebody called me up one day and offered me a job and was like, I thought I was dreaming and I went back to sleep. And later I woke up and I thought I had a weird dream. And then she called me later and said, so you're coming or not? And I said, well, I'll never get a chance to be a clown in a circus again. So I figured, let's do it. So I ended up spending the next about 4 to 5 years traveling the country as a circus clown. And I also shoveled elephant poop and took care of other animals, sold concessions. I was a ringmaster, and it was like living in a movie. One of these days, maybe I'll get it turned into a script. Who knows? But it was a fantastic experience. Then I went back to New York, and I decided, I guess, at some point during that time that I really wasn't going to be a full-time performer. I felt like I was talented, but I remember the big clown, one of the major clowns in the 1970s, and he's still a fantastic actor, was Bill Irwin. And I don't know if you know who that is, but if you look him up, he was like a MacArthur fellow and he was, brilliant. And I didn't think I had that ability. So I went into business. And while I was on the road, I finally got my degree. In those days, it used to be called Universities Without Walls. It was before online. I used to bring textbooks with me and I would carry a typewriter and would type out my reports and mail them back in and stuff. So I got my degree. And then in the late 70s, I worked as an assistant to a Broadway producer. And she had produced some notable shows. The one most notable was called Sophisticated Ladies with Gregory Hines. And that takes me into the 80s.
Yes,
and then
Tapper.
What's that?
The Tapper, Gregory Hines.
Yes,
Gregory Hines. I did. I grew up doing tap. He was, incredible.
He was one of the greats.
Yeah,
if
definitely.
If there was a tap dancing Hall of Fame, he would be in it.
Yeah, 100%.
And I used to bump into him every so often in New York, and he was always the nicest guy.
Oh my God,
sweet
how
man,
awesome.
Super gifted, and sadly died before his time from cancer in the mid-90s. Very unfortunate. And he was on a number of movies too. He was a movie star too. So So then let's see, 80s, sophisticated ladies. Oh, and then I decided to go into my own business, and I started a small company that provided novelty performers, because I had known clowns and magicians and jugglers,
that's so
to
cool.
schools and corporate events and promotions. And I did that. And then I started focusing just on corporate events because that's where the money was. And I did that for the rest of the 90s. I did pretty well at it. And then I kind of got bored and I decided I really wanted to be in mainline show business, movies and TV.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was in my mid-30s, and I figured, well, the only path in for me might be as a manager. So I decided to hang out my shingle as a manager, and I knew a fellow writer. I started working with him. And then the actor I mentioned previously that I knew from high school, I noticed one day I was reading the New York Times. I noticed he was going to be doing a play in New York, right near where I lived. So I went to see him, and his name is Keith David.
Oh,
and,
yes.
Keith David's a pretty well-known guy, and he works all the time, and he's been a gift. Without Keith David, I'm not sitting here talking to you. That's for sure.
Amazing. He was just in From Scratch, right?
What's that?
He was just in that show.
From Scratch.
Yes.
That's the series he's on now. He plays
right now, and lots
father.
of.
Right.
Okay, yeah. Oh, he's incredible. He really is amazing.
That's a great
he stands
series
out. Too. Yeah, it is.
It's number one on Netflix right now. It's been a great thing. So I started working with that writer and Keith, and that was like 88, 89. And then I quickly realized that if I was really going to make a go of it, I needed to be in Los Angeles because and still in the later 80s, early 90s, LA was still the major hub of all production. Nowadays, it's changed. There's production all over the United States and all over the world. But LA is still the casting capital of the world. For me, for most roles, series regular roles on television and the lead roles in films, the decisions are mostly made here still. So I moved here on Halloween 1989. So that's 99, 09, 19. That's 33 years ago as of last week.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time. I've lived now in LA almost as long as I lived in New York. So I've been here ever since. My management career is varied. I started just with actors. Then I started repping writers and actors for a while. And then I got back into actors and just solely actors in the last 10 years, though my experience in working in literary has helped me with actors who produce their own things, and because I know about the contracts and, kind of the way it all works. And I've been doing it. I've produced a few things too. I've got my name on a few producing credits, and it's been incredibly wonderful in some ways and incredibly frustrating, just like the rest of life. But showbiz has a particular frustration because a lot of people are desperate to be in it. And very few people even make a living at it, to be honest. So while I haven't reached the heights that I still hope to achieve, in your heart, you never give up. I am proud of the fact that I've made a pretty good living and I've had a nice life and it's been interesting. I've traveled a lot and I've met a lot of interesting people, and it certainly beats conventional work,
definitely.
Doctor or lawyer. Look, my daughter's in med school right now. God bless her. She loves it. She wants to be a doctor. That's what she wants to do. I'm lucky I found something that could accommodate my particular skills, abilities, neuroses, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's so amazing.
I think that's a little summary of how I got to be sitting here talking to you.
Yeah, awesome. That's so crazy amazing how you met someone you met in high school is still someone you work with, and he's one of your clients.
I'll just emphasize that a little bit more because it is amazing to have. I mean, I talk to Keith virtually every day, every business day. We probably talk 10 times a week. And we don't see each other that often in person because that's the nature, he's always traveling, but we're in touch constantly and we're very close friends. But I also work for him as a manager. I can never forget that he's my boss. He pays me a lot of money. So it's been a balancing act. And there have been times I've wondered, is he sick of me? Is he going to get rid of me? And there have been times when he's probably wondered if I wanted to get rid of him, because we've had, when you're in business together for over 30 years, and you're close to begin with, it's, we're brothers. We're brothers from another mother. We are.
Yeah.
And I've been very fortunate that it's worked out. I have a couple other clients that are very working actors. I represent a woman named Nicole Brianna White, who is a series regular on Black Mafia Family on Starz. I don't know if you know anything about the show. It's about these two young guys growing up in Detroit in the early '90s, and they create the biggest Coke empire that the Midwest has ever seen. And she's their mother, and she's a church-going, God-fearing woman. So it's obviously a lot of conflict there. She's wonderful, wonderful client. Been a client for a long time. And I represent an actress by the name of Barbara Crampton, who, if you're a horror fan, she's an icon in the horror genre. And she's been great. And I have some other clients who will work regularly doing guest star roles and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of my point. And the point is, you can do well with just a few clients. I at this point probably only have 8 or 9 clients, but I learned to make it work.
Yeah.
And I have an assistant, and that makes it that helps a lot, and it's all good.
Yeah, very cool. What do you recommend because some have many clients, but that's not necessarily like a good thing, and some have fewer. What's your opinion on that? And especially maybe for someone looking to go into management, like working at bigger companies versus a small one. Yeah.
Well, my first answer to that is my answer to a lot of things. You do what works for you.
Right.
Some people are meant to have big companies. I clearly was meant to have small ones. Some people seem to have partners. I've had partners, but I seem to be a sole practitioner type. Though all my clients, I'm partners with every one of my clients.
Right,
so I never forget that.
Yeah.
And as I said before, we're partners, and they're the senior partner. I'm ultimately it's their decision to do whatever they want to do. I think if you and the interesting thing about show business, whether you want to work in film and TV or theater or behind the camera or in front of the camera or whatever, it's not like the typical professions where you go to med school and get a degree and you get your license, you become a doctor or an accountant or a lawyer or whatever, or a school teacher. Everybody's got a different story. The general consensus, if you want to be in the representation business, is to start on the ground floor, be an assistant somewhere, and work your way up. Most of the agents and managers that I know started that way, and I did too. I was an assistant to a Broadway producer, and I went on from there. So that's the general way, and then your personality, your abilities, your idiosyncrasies will manifest themselves, and you'll see where it takes you. I also always say, if somebody has the desire to be an actor, go for it now. Don't wait. Because it's best done when you're young. First of all, there are a lot more roles for younger people. And second of all, do it when you don't have the responsibilities of a family, of a mortgage, of bills, and blah, 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 blah. Try it when you're young and, give yourself some time. But a lot of people don't walk away from it when they should. Most people don't make it as an actor. Another reason I think it's good to start when you're young, because whatever else you do in life, you will learn tremendous lessons from the rejection of not getting auditions, and then learning how to deal. And then when you are getting jobs, it can often be a rocky road. A lot of people can be real assholes on movie sets and on TV sets. I mean, the things you read about is just the tip of the iceberg. A lot of things you never read about, hear about, but it's crazy stuff. So it's great training for whatever you're going to do in life. Now, that's my thought. I know people. I have one client, in fact, who has a wife and 3 kids and had a successful business in the construction business. And then in his 40s, he decided, what? I've always wanted to be an actor. It's time. And he's been working. And, so he's made it work too. So you never know. And that's what's cool about showbiz. There's as many entrances in as there are jobs to pursue.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. It's so cool. It's true. You really have to follow your instincts, because there is no way, right? Like those other professions you mentioned.
Right.
There's no way. There's no book. Yeah. In many ways that would be very helpful, but I mean,
yeah.
Right.
And I know people who've done the craziest things to get themselves notices. And there was a famous story. There was an actor named George Hamilton who was very popular in the 80s and 90s, if you look him up. He did a vampire movie in the late 80s. I forgot what it's called. I think it's called Dracula Sucks or something like that. He was a very, very handsome, dapper, good-looking dude. And he got his start by, he rented a Rolls Royce. Now, this was, I think, in the 70s or 80s when you could get away with these. And he just drove onto a studio like he belonged there. And he started just meeting people, and it led to a successful career. So, everybody's got their own ways of doing things, but
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I feel
it's
like
a
that's
creative business. So you have to be creative to get in.
Yeah, it's true. I think I heard of a writer that wanted representation as a writer, and I think they sent a letter to who they wanted to represent them, and the letter just said like the diamonds are coming or something, and then a little bit later they sent it, like they kept sending a letter with like one sentence, and eventually the person was so curious that he just, because he didn't know what this letter was, it was just bizarre.
Right.
And then eventually I guess he sent a script maybe, or I don't know what happened, but he ended up working with him.
And I get emails like that all the time. And people,
Oh, really?
There seems to be, I've noticed you get a lot of the emails that seem to follow the same format. They talk about auditions they had and people who called them in. Then they say, so I hope you'll see me. And then they'll always say, P.S., remind me to tell you the story of the time that I blank, blank, blank as a way to pull you in. But I've seen that so many times. There must be a book out there that suggests that or something. Because I've seen hundreds of those.
Oh, wow.
But you never know what's going to hook a person. And I do a lot of pitches to casting directors. That's how we get auditions.
Exactly.
And they're very businesslike. But every so often I'll get an idea of like, by the way, did you know that this guy, I don't know, was the fastest runner on his high school track, if he's going for an athlete job or something like that. I try to think of ways to grab their attention, but mostly because I do so many of those pitches and I've been doing this a long time, and there are some casting directors who like me, some hate me, some ignore me, some respond to me, but they all know me at this point.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There aren't any who don't know me. And that's what you need in this business, just at least they know that I'm a legitimate manager and I have, real actors who really do things. So I've established that.
Yeah,
which ain't
really
easy,
things. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, just so far, I've met so many managers, and some of them are like, I don't know. There's obviously differences. There's some that don't even have breakdowns and things, and they're kind of just like, I don't know. There's just a range of managers. When
I first started in the 90s, I never looked at the breakdowns because managers in the early 90s were only there to advise and consult.
Right.
But I quickly started getting the breakdowns because I realized that's the want ads for Hollywood. 99% of the actor jobs are in those breakdowns. Yeah. Even ones where they make offers, they'll often put a breakdown in just in case the offers don't work out. I don't see how anybody can rep actors as either a manager or an agent without getting the breakdowns. I don't get that at all. Yeah. What I didn't do is I didn't submit much, but as time went by, and finally I started talking to agents when the 21st century rolled around, and they said, and I said, why don't you send me clients? And they said, I would say that, and they said, well, how many appointments do you get for your clients? How many auditions? And I said, well, that's not really my job. They said, it is now. When the internet showed up, it changed the dynamic. And now agents and it's even funkier than that because the state of California has laws on the books that do not allow anybody but agents to pursue work for actors.
Right. And okay.
Only agents are allowed to negotiate deals. Not even lawyers are supposed to be negotiating deals. And there are people trying to change that, but it's not changed yet. But if you're not getting jobs to your clients, they're not going to keep you as a manager. There isn't an actor out there who's going to say, well, you can be my manager, but I don't need you to help me get auditions or work. I mean, that's the job. So it's another reason that makes it complicated, but you deal with it.
Yeah. So talk a little bit more about that, like the shift or like what a manager does today. Like what's your day to day? What's your process for pitching generally? I know it varies for sure depending on who it is and who you know and the project. But what's your process for pitching most of the time?
I have an assistant and we both review the breakdowns constantly. The breakdowns are constantly being generated as they get the information, they then put it on the site. And we both review them constantly. And then when I see one I think is worth pitching because I think the client's really right, or there's somebody I'm really marketing because I want them to be exposed to as many casting directors as possible, my assistant actually does the pitches. We do them all by email. I used to make calls, but they're not effective because once in a while I'll call if I'm good friends with the casting director or something that it's like it's blowing up inside, but 99 times out of 100, it's an email. then they can respond or not. But you're not a pain in the ass you would be as if you're ringing them on the phone.
Yeah.
So
And also then all the stuff is there, like all the relevant materials that's like in front of them already.
And like I said, sometimes you do make the call, but mostly I do it by email. And then you get the auditions and they audition. I have some clients that are offer only. So, you get offers. And and if somebody books the audition or the offer comes in, you have to read the script and you discuss it with the client. And then you consult with the agent. The agent handles the negotiation, but we confer, and we have a lawyer on the team for some of the bigger jobs, and the lawyer and the agent and I all confer, and it's the process.
Yeah.
So I follow that law. I want to put that make that clear.
Yeah.
I follow the law in California.
Yes. No, that is clear. So
at least when it comes to negotiation.
Right. So what about then actors? There are some actors that don't have an agent. They only have a manager. So how does that work when they book something?
Same thing.
Okay.
Except, if they don't have an agent, then their manager or their lawyer is handling the negotiation. And as long as they don't sue the manager, I don't think the state of California cares. But
right.
But there have been famous cases. I don't know why I'm harping on this so much, but remember in the early 90s, remember Roseanne Barr?
Yes, yeah.
She sued her manager for some reason. And because of that California law, the manager lost and had to repay all the commissions that he earned from her.
Oh, no. Oh, so wow.
It can be a problem.
Okay. Interesting. It's fascinating because I don't know. You don't think about it, right? It doesn't seem like there's
you do if you're in the business, but
right, you do.
Yeah, most people don't.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. What's an instance of? Have you had any clients from the developmental stage? I guess Keith David, right?
Well, yes and no. Keith. By the time we started working together in 1988. He already had done a couple of movies, so I wouldn't have called. He had already done Platoon and The Thing.
Awesome. Okay.
And the first movie that he worked on when I was his manager was, it was a Steven Seagal movie. Oh, I can't think of the name, but it was like late 80s, whatever it was, 1990, whatever it was. And then Men at Work with Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez. Those are the first movies I worked with him on. Which was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Men at Work is kind of a classic. But yeah, I've had developmental clients, and I've had clients over the years that I no longer have, or I had in partnership with other people in the partnership circle, or I worked other places. But it's a gut instinct.
Yeah.
I say there was an actor who unfortunately died a couple of years ago who I remained friends with named Willie Garson, and he was in Sex and the City, and he was on, if you look him up, he was on some major series. And I saw him in a showcase, like a scene night at a theater. And I worked with this company at the time. It was very early in my career. And I said, we should sign that guy. And we did. And then the other manager had the relationship, but I stayed friendly with him. He was a sweet guy and very talented. And I've had other people like that. It's just a gut thing. I don't pursue that anymore. I'm in a different stage, so I don't really, because it's hard. It's hard to break it. You just got to keep pushing and pushing.
Okay, awesome. And you work with actors and writers and producers right now?
I used to, just actors now.
Okay. Oh, just actors now. Very cool.
I have had writer clients in the past, but I don't any longer.
Okay. And what's the process with writers? Like, how does that change what you're doing? Because are you managing them as a writer as well?
Well, I've never really had that many actor writers. I've had actors and I've had writers. You represent our writers, the same principles. There aren't breakdowns. So you have to do a lot more networking. You have to be friends with all the development people, around town at all the various networks and studios and production companies and all those kinds of places. And now the streaming services. And then you just got to get them to respect your taste and intuition enough that they'll start reading scripts that you submit, and you pitch them ideas, and then you hope they want to read the script. In some ways, it's more tedious and harder than repping actors, I think. There are lit managers who that's all they do, and they're very successful. And I do know some people who represent both actors and lit, and they're very successful. So again, it's how people, come up in the business. But it's the same principles. You got to get their material in front of people, and then people's got to like it.
Yeah.
Because you can't do it alone.
And you have to get people to read a lot of pages.
That's hard. Because every development person probably has dozens of scripts waiting to be read, and they have to prioritize them every day. And that's why some scripts never get read, because they can't get to them. Only so many hours in the day.
I interned at a development office before, and I was an intern. So I was like the first filter to read all the scripts and either pass on them or recommend them. And it's a lot. It's pretty crazy because, I mean, you have these interns who aren't necessarily that experienced. Actually, they're not really that experienced outside of school of knowing what'll do well. Yeah, exactly. Right. But then we have a say, like the first say on which scripts get read by the next person. It's kind of fascinating.
Yeah. And just to think, so the gatekeepers at this company were people who hadn't even had their first real job yet. They were interns. Yeah,
exactly.
And they were relying on you for their future business.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. But it's not the only way, because most ways that development people or production companies find their scripts are through relationships with agents and managers that they already know. So your guys were to weed out the incoming stuff that was unsolicited. And the odds
that's a good point.
Any of those, it's literally 1 in a million probably, goes anywhere. Or maybe 1 in 100,000, 1 in a million actually gets married, or something like that. But look, that's how Sylvester Stallone got started. He wrote a script and he just started shopping it around town. He didn't have anybody in his life, and he ended up becoming Sylvester Stallone. And there were plenty of, so everybody has that dream. Everybody wants to be that Sylvester Stallone type person, but that's how you find out. You give it a shot.
Right,
anybody's got the dream, you should give it a shot and see where it takes you. But don't be disappointed. You can't say don't be disappointed. If you don't achieve it, be disappointed, but then move on and do something else and stay positive. Yeah. That's the hard part.
And like be open, I think. Be open. Like, so I think, because you could also be like narrow-minded with what you want to do, but there's so much within entertainment, There's so much that your experience can lend to that's a little bit different than what you originally thought, That's
true. And it's hard to know when to be stubborn and when to give in. Like Sylvester Stallone.
That's a good point.
Everybody wanted his script once it started getting read, but nobody wanted him to star in it. The conventional was, and that was also true. I happened to be friendly with Chaz Palminteri, who did the movie A Bronx Tale. He wrote it as a one-man show. It was very successful. Word got out. Everybody wanted to produce it. He said, well, I have to be the star. And they said, no. And as I recall, he told me that he was offered like $1 million to just sell the script without him in it.
And
he had no money at the time. He was broke. But he had such belief in himself. It worked. He started it, and it turned into a extremely successful career.
Yeah.
So
that's amazing.
You don't know. But I'm sure there have been plenty of other people who've had scripts that production companies wanted to buy, and they said, no, I have to star in it or direct it or whatever. And they said, sorry. And then it probably never went anywhere. So, it's there's no telling how this is all going to turn out.
Right. It's truly, you have to like tap into that instinct.
And it's hard. It's
hard because your head, because you kind of think, you can like overthink anything and then it's lost, and you have to figure it out.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. What was your process or experience with deciding to move on from acting? Because I know that was your original
I
drive.
think I mentioned, I was performing in the circus and I was having fun.
Oh, you did mention. Yes.
Right. But it just became apparent to me that, well, I knew I was talented and people enjoyed me and all that kind of stuff. I just felt instinctively that the life that I wanted wasn't going to be able to be provided to me if I stuck to acting. And I think I was afraid of becoming, and this thought just occurred to me now, I think I may have been afraid that I didn't want to become one of those people in their 30s who still like, being a waiter, wanting to be an actor. I didn't want to be that person. Not that there's anything wrong with that. If you are in your 30s and you're waiting tables because you still want to be an actor and you're content with that, you're not bitter and you're still feeling, then that's what you should do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that there's that pit. You see a lot of actors, that bitterness creeps in, and there's nothing more toxic to a career than that attitude. I know actors, I've known actors, I won't mention their names, but they actually had big careers. And even with big careers, they started getting bitter and unpleasant. And now they don't work at all.
Yeah.
Because word gets out quickly. It says, even though it's a smaller business, because of the internet, it's a smaller business than ever, even though there's thousands and thousands of people working on it. And word gets out quickly about people, especially like the actor grapevine, the casting directors, they all talk. Everybody talks.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. You start to notice that. At least I've started to notice that just more and more, how many people know each other. Like how many times you meet people and you actually realize, oh, he worked with him and she worked with him. And you kind of like, it's bizarre. It gets more and more apparent,
Especially like when you look at Facebook and you see who mutual friends are. Like,
all that.
Oh my God,
Right.
I know.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, like I'm like, oh, I'm friends with this person and this one separately, and I had no idea they're like best friends,
And you don't know what people have said about you.
Yeah,
Nobody knows
exactly.
what's being said.
Right.
So you just hope for the best and plan for the worst is what you got to do.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna ask you just like a few fun random questions. Okay.
Sure, go right ahead.
All right. What is your most used emoji? Emojis, like the little symbols.
Yeah, of course I know emojis. Thumbs up.
Okay.
Muscles.
Oh yeah.
Fingers crossed. Prayer hands.
Uh-huh.
The little smiley guy with the two little hands over here. The kisses. I save those mostly for my wife, but once in a while I'll send kisses to other people. The poop emoji. That's always a good one. So it's not on all my devices. It's like it's.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean.
I think from my laptop. I don't remember, but it's missing from one of them.
Okay,
which is
all
very
right.
frustrating. I miss my poop emoji sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think I'm sure there are others I've used. But
that covers it. Those are your most frequently used.
Obviously, if they came to my mind that quickly, I do use them. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
It's true. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Those emojis are great. It's one of the great.
Yeah, they are, right?
Yeah,
and like GIFs and stuff.
Yeah, GIFs I don't use as much because they're a little more complicated. I've tried.
They are a little more.
If it takes more than a second or two, I lose interest.
Right. Yeah, and on some of the like if you use WhatsApp, they don't seem to work. I don't know. They're not on there. I think
I use WhatsApp, but I don't know. But I don't go for the emojis on WhatsApp.
Yeah. Okay.
But you're right about that. I guess maybe that's why, because I don't really use it much.
Yeah. All right. If you were a professional athlete, what sport would you play and why?
It's funny because I was just saying this the other day. I'm the world's worst athlete. I'm good at one thing. I'm really good in the gym. And I'm a certified group fitness instructor now. And as a way of giving back, once a week I go to a nonprofit in Santa Monica and I teach senior fitness.
Oh, that's so cool.
To people in their 80s and 90s. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
These people are so motivated. It's crazy. I had no idea. So I guess my answer to be based on my experience and my knowledge that I have no hand-eye coordination. I mean, I'm just the worst. If I were a professional athlete, I'd be the trainer in the gym. Because I can do that. I'm at my age. There are things I can do in the gym that people half my age can't do. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's incredible.
But I'm just really good at working out. So
yeah, that's so cool. Okay, so you're very fit, but
or something like that.
Got it. That makes sense. You're very fit, but there's no particular sport that's like, because they're different. They're different skills.
I'm the worst. Even when it comes to even things that I'm good at, like this summer, our family went hiking in the Northeast in the Adirondacks, which are very dense woods and hard hikes. And I'm like the strongest person out there. I got lost. I was lost in the woods for 90 minutes, freaking the out because I was so scared. I mean, the sun's going down and I couldn't find it. But it just reminded me, I was never tired or sore, but I didn't pay attention all of a sudden.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
I'm just good at being fit.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. And they found you eventually.
It's a long story. It's for another podcast.
Okay.
But it's a fact. I got lost twice on the same trail.
Oh my gosh.
And it was a miracle that I got out. It was.
Oh wow.
It said to me afterwards, I said to myself, I guess I'm meant to still be on this earth. Because while I was being lost, I was thinking I was going to be dinner for a bear or a pack of coyotes. I thought it was over, but thank God it wasn't.
Yeah. Okay, good. Awesome. And then how do you be the now? If there's anything you do to stay present, however you want to answer that.
Well, my first thought is when you say be in the now is to just simply be present.
Yeah.
And for me, I don't know for everybody, for me, that's very hard. Mm-hmm. I'm constantly either in the past, reliving moments, thinking, oh, I should have done this, having regrets or frustrations or anger. It's very annoying. Or I'm in the future, fantasizing about, well, maybe if this happened, then this will happen. Or if I'd only done this would have happened. Just to be in the present and just to be here now ain't easy. Mm-hmm. But I do meditate. I meditate at least once a day. I find that helpful. I take naps because I find when I get sleepy, it's hard to be even paying attention. Yeah. So I've learned just close my eyes for 20 minutes if I possibly can, and I'm refreshed. So napping, meditating, just acknowledging that you're not in the present can help you be in the present. And then when you are focused, like if I'm dealing with a client and it's, we're talking about a job or a negotiation, things are on the line.
Right.
If something's at stake, that'll keep
that
you
makes you present. Yeah,
and,
for sure.
And the greater the consequences or the greater the potential, the more present you have to be.
Yeah, definitely. Those are all amazing answers. I like what you said too. I like what you said, especially when you're not present, to acknowledge that, because sometimes just accepting whatever it is that is makes you present. It kind of like releases the stuff.
And that's true with everything in life.
Yeah.
Anytime you're dealing with an issue or a problem you can't figure out, you first have to acknowledge the truth about it.
Yeah.
And human beings are such complicated creatures. And, I don't know if some people believe in God, some don't, some think it's randomness, whatever it is. However we got here, we're so full of contradictions, and people can be so brilliant and so stupid at the same time. Yeah. There's this whole field of study called behavioral finance and behavioral economics, where it's the study of how people who are otherwise brilliant make these stupid mistakes. And it's all about these heuristics where you get caught up in your biases and your previous experiences, and you're invested in something. You're so invested you can't see the light, for you can't see the forest for the trees, that kind of stuff. So it's very hard just being a human being on the planet.
Yeah.
It is. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
It's very complicated. Because look at all the brilliant people that every day do stupid stuff. You read about it online in the newspapers, whatever. It's just the way we're made.
Yeah, definitely. It's true. Our brains are so evolved, that it's like
it's so complex and so contradictory.
It is.
Oh my God. Don't get me started.
I know. It's a never-ending thing. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
How did you get started doing this podcast?
Yeah. So during the pandemic, everything stopped. I was working at a comedy club before. Everything kind of stopped. You know that.
Right.
And I ended up having these conversations. Like I'd reach out to different people and we'd have these conversations. And eventually I was just thinking these are so interesting. And I feel like I'm learning a lot. And I just thought, why don't I just record these conversations and make a podcast and then share that, because then anyone can listen to it, So that's how it started.
And how long have you been doing it?
The podcast?
Yeah. Since the pandemic started?
Yeah, no, so now it's been well over a year.
Right.
Yeah.
Good for you. That's smart. Do it. Again, you're following an instinct.